Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing State of Decay 2 on the Geforce GTX 750 Ti. For performance monitoring, this time I won't be using CAM since it's not compatible with Universal Windows applications at the moment, so in the meantime I'll be using MSI Afterburner. So State of Decay 2, I'll be doing 1080p, 900p and 720p. To skip down those sections of the video, check the description below. So first of all, I'll show you 1080p, and only on this resolution I'll be using the GTX 750 Ti with overclock. On 900p and 720p, the overclock is completely disabled, so keep that in mind. First I'll show you my 30 FPS configuration, which means that I try to crank up the settings as high as possible without dropping below 30 frames per second, so I tweak the game accordingly. Then I lower the settings, trying to hit as close as possible to 60 frames per second, which on this game means pretty much the lowest settings on 1080p and 900p. You can even turn off shadows, which makes the game look significantly worse. And then on 900p and 720p it will be the same. I show you my 30 FPS configuration, then trying to hit 60 frames per second, so I lowered the settings. You'll see sometimes when I flip the camera at 180 degrees, but there is a very sudden stutter. That's because the VRAM usage is very high. It likes to hit 2 GB. Unfortunately, there is not a texture quality option in the menu, so I cannot tweak that, but the game is still completely playable. There are just some stutters when you move the camera very quickly that are very sudden. Not really a big deal if you ask me. Also be aware that this game has some forced Vsync onto it. At least it seems to be that way. If I'm below 60 frames per second, the game just hard lock at 30, and if I have a lot of GPU power to spare, the game just caps at 60 frames per second. So in order to fix that, just go into the NVidia Control Panel, and into the 3D options, just disable Vsync or just enable the fast sync option. That'll just allow you to get uncapped frame rates in this game without any other interruptions. But honestly, I recommend you cap the frame rate in this game. If not, it's very inconsistent. For example, you're looking into a place with a lot of foliage, okay, you might get 40 frames per second, but then you look the other way around, maybe there are some buildings there and it's like 65 FPS, so the game feels very inconsistent, especially if you're aiming something or just trying to flee. So my recommendation here is, if you're trying to play at 30 frames per second and you get 30 to 60, just cap it at 30 frames per second or 35, and if you're trying to get 60 frames per second and it stays between 60 and 80 or 60 and 100 frames per second, believe me, in this game can happen. Just cap the game at 60 frames per second. Again, that'll make the experience way more consistent because the frame rates can fluctuate quite a bit. So first of all, the most demanding settings so far were foliage draw distance, shadow quality and ambient occlusion quality. Those three options, if you lower them first, should give you the best performance boost, especially foliage draw distance. By just lowering that from ultra to high, you get a massive FPS boost in places with a lot of foliage, and that's what I'm visiting the whole video. Places with just a lot of grass and trees. Despite the options we have here, the grass draw distance is kinda poor, plus it's a huge performance hit. Not sure what's up with that, with the grass in this game. If you lower that to low, there is no grass whatsoever, so be aware of that. Then the shadow quality from ultra to high, another noticeable FPS boost, and ambient occlusion as well. By just lowering that from ultra to medium, for example, you get a very noticeable FPS difference. Then the other options I didn't mention, just lower them in groups if you want a good FPS improvement from those, because those individually don't make a huge performance difference. And well, there are a couple bugs with the options menu. First of all, the default quality, you have low, medium, high and ultra. That's usually just to change all the options to a preset. Despite changing the preset, it also changes the internal rendering resolution of the game. So for example, if you are 1080p and put the default quality on ultra, then each of the options individually are lowered to low. That means that you have the lowest settings plus the 1080p native resolution. But if you just put the default quality on low, despite having all the options on low, you're not on 1080p anymore. I'll just lower the resolution scale and the options as well, so be aware of that. In that case, it will mean that you will be below 1080p and with the lowest settings at the same time. So yeah, my recommendation here, just put the default quality on ultra and then lower the options that you want to lower individually, so you don't have a lower resolution than native. And then the subsurface scattering option, when you put the ultra preset, it stays on high by default, and if I put it on ultra, get out of the options menu and go back in, the subsurface scattering option stays on high anyway, so you cannot go over high on that option. And in the video options you have full screen, but if you put full screen, it'll take your desktop resolution to select the resolution of the game, so you cannot manually choose a resolution in game unless you go on windowed mode. So in order to remedy that, just put full screen, it will stay on desktop resolution. Just minimize the game, go into the display settings in Windows, just right click on the desktop and change your resolution there. So if you put 720p on your desktop, desktop, the game will just switch to 720p automatically, and that should be about it. And this game is running on Unreal Engine 4 at the moment, exclusive to the Windows 10 store. Honestly, I think that it will be on Steam in a few months from now, so personally I will just wait for this game to be released on Steam, so you have more freedom on your game files and many other things, because the Windows 10 store is just not good enough, at least in my opinion. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video, thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Things I found while I was out.
Plague zombies in all directions. Better be careful. Looks like another plague heart over there. Okay, time for a close encounter. Definitely on their way now. Gotta keep my eyes open. Don't fall apart yet. Well, that's the last of them. Oh, you shouldn't have. Can't do it.
Getting low on that. Nothing more to kill here. Well, I could have been louder. No room. Dear God, I'm tired. Almost out. God, I am so sick of plague zombies. How would I get this job again? Last one. Won't work.